If you've ever bought a motorcycle from Harley Davidson, then this story is going to resonate with you. Today I'm going to tell you about something they've been accused of doing that all of us have kind of suspected over the past couple years, maybe even longer than that. And it actually just goes to show that Harley Davidson isn't just struggling in the United States with their primary market, but their overseas markets as well. And they're trying some of the same strategies. So much so that it may actually surprise you the extent that dealers are going to try to make the motor company happy. It's a pretty crazy story. And of course, I want to hear any of your experiences, because if you're new here, you may think, oh, I hate Harley Davidson, which is completely untrue, by the way. I like the motor company. I want them to do well, but this is a good representative of the state that the company's in. So any bad experiences that you've had, what's like maybe one of the worst experiences you've had with a Harley Davidson dealership? You can leave some good ones down below too, but this is going to focus on yet one of the other mistakes I think the company is making as a whole. Whatever your opinion is, leave it down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So the Fair Trade Commission in Japan has hit Harley Davidson with a pretty significant fine, $1.4 million, for unfair practices that the motor company is putting on their 90 dealers in Japan. Essentially, what they're making these guys do is they're putting their sales quotas so high that most of these dealers cannot meet them. So essentially, the dealers are having to buy their own motorcycles, put them in their employees and supervisors and GM's names, and then reselling them for less than what a new bike would cost. And the motor company is threatening some of these dealers to pull their licensing altogether if they don't at least partially meet the quotas that Harley Davidson is setting for them. Now, keep in mind that these bikes aren't cheaper in Japan, not even close. They estimate them to be at like, I don't know, 5 million yen, which is like $34,000, which is about what you could expect to pay for a lot of the top-end Harleys here in the United States. Now, this aggressive type of strategy, of course, is just artificially inflating the numbers for the motor company, but it's putting a lot of dealers in bad situations. And the reason I say this may resonate with a lot of riders here in the United States is because if you've ever bought a motorcycle from Harley, you know that the deal doesn't stop once you buy the motorcycle, right? You may get a call, I don't know, every couple of months, right? Oh, we have an event coming up. Oh, hey, are you liking your new motorcycle? Things like that. It's very simple, and I'm not even saying there's really anything wrong with it, right? They want to keep you in the loop about new sales and promotions. If you walk into a Harley Davidson dealership, it's very similar to what you'll find in any car dealership, right? So I'm not necessarily knocking them, but you will find that they will aggressively try to, get people in to buy those bikes. And it makes more sense now if you look at it from a corporate perspective and what the dealers may be having to put up with on their level. And there's no story that said that they're necessarily like threatening dealers here in the United States. None that I could find anyways. But there have been dealers that have come out and said, basically since Jochen Zeitz has taken over, the entire company has had this massive shift, right? They had the hardwire plan from 21 to 25, which essentially does a couple of things. And seeing the story basically puts a lot more of this into a better perspective as to why Harley does the things that they do, right? First of all, the big touring motorcycles, right? That's where the greatest profits are. That's what the company has been focused on for the past 4 years. And they want to not only get rid of motorcycles that don't have a great profit margin, they're okay with selling less motorcycles as long as the profits are increasing year over year. Now, I, of course, and along with a lot of other people, have seen that this strategy has not paid off for them very well. But they've almost taken an online approach. So I read a story from a dealer. I don't even remember which dealership he owns. But anyways, he owns a number of Harley Davidson dealerships. And he was talking about how online has been pushed where you can basically buy the motorcycles online. So it takes away from the dealer initiatives, right? So if somebody can walk in, and his example was walk in or buy a t-shirt online, there's free shipping, why would they ever come into the dealer? Well, same thing with a motorcycle, right? Or a car. If you can just buy it online, You can get a good deal. There's no haggling. You don't have to see people face to face and kind of go through this annoying process. Why would you go in the dealer to do something stressful when you can just do it all that right there with a click of a button? And so it's tough, right? You have these dealers that need people to come in, and then you have Harley Davidson, which again, I don't know that I can blame them for this. They want to focus on their online stuff, their parts and accessories. Harley Davidson Financial, we all have stories we could tell about them if you've ever financed through them. But they want to keep up with the times and make sure that they're keeping up with the competition. But for a lot of these dealers, it's basically undercutting them. And so they have to be even more aggressive with the people that are coming in. Now, I can't tell you how many people are actually buying motorcycles on Harley Davidson Financial or going through the used section that Harley Davidson has set up, where you can basically buy from peer to peer and use Harley Davidson Financial as the bank in which you do that deal. But what I can say is there's probably some people using that for sure. So you have a decreasing market. You've had a past year which has been filled with turmoil at Harley Davidson. Less people walking in, less motorcycle sales all the way around, and less people to try to sell motorcycles to. And then you have this focus on, turning Harley Davidson into more of a premium brand, I guess, is kind of what Jochen Zeiss has talked about doing, where you have these dealers, revamping all of their dealerships, and they got to sink a bunch of money into that in order to keep up with this image. With less bikes going out the door, less people coming in the door, that's going to lead to a lot of stress on these dealerships and increase the amount of stress you may have to deal with when you go to maybe buy from these dealerships. I mean, think about it like this. For a period of time, the cheapest Harley you could buy was $14,000. That has since come down to under 10. But you're already talking about $14,000 to $44,000 essentially. So now you have these higher profit motorcycles that are on the floor. You've basically cut out your entire entry-level market for anybody that's on more of a budget. You're only going after people that are a little bit older, people that have a little bit of money, and putting more pressure on those dealers, which again, maybe your mileage varies when it comes to your local dealers. But I can imagine that this is not a very fun experience for anybody that's out there trying to sell motorcycles for the motor company right now at this point in time. And we've seen this with the 23 models, right? The 24 models, now the 25s, right? Where you have a lot of these dealers that are sitting on this inventory, so much so they're willing to take $10,000 off the price of a bike instantly. No haggling, that is unheard of at almost any Harley Davidson dealership now, but they're willing to do it, right? If they have that old inventory sitting there and you're in a position to buy a Harley Davidson, it's actually not a bad time to buy from them. So you have too much inventory, not enough people coming in the door to buy them, but on the sales numbers, and it doesn't even look good on the corporate side either, but it does help them because they don't count when the bike actually gets to the customer. They count a sale as from the time it leaves whatever plant it came from to the dealer, that's a sale, and then the dealer has to make sure they get these bikes sold, and I guess, sometimes maybe not necessarily at a loss, let's just be honest, but way less than what they could have maybe just a few years back. Their moves of trying to become number one in electric and, just kind of, it seems like they're just spread way too thin. I think this really kind of speaks to new leadership all the way around at corporate Harley Davidson, which can trickle down and kind of give that experience, that good experience, not only back to customers, right, which is super important, but also to the dealers that are under corporate Harley Davidson. The whole hardwire strategy sounds good, but what they missed is keeping people, everybody, right? Anybody that can afford a motorcycle all across the spectrum, from your high-end customers all the way down to your entry-level motorcycles as well. Getting more people in the door and not trying to over-exaggerate or overinflate your numbers on the corporate level, but make these bikes more affordable. What they did at the beginning of 2024 in putting more tech and all this awesome stuff in the bikes, which I really liked, but they kind of brought the cost down technically. Doing more of that, getting more of the entry-level bikes from entry-level touring machines and entry-level Sportsters and those kind of motorcycles. That way you're not artificially trying to move more motorcycles. You are moving more because you have now more people that come in to buy more motorcycles. And of course, R&D, right? Spending more money to come up with new designs that will get newer faces in Harley Davidson. And keeping your core customers happy as well, and not jacking the prices up $2,000 a year or more. So, there you go. There's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours, man. Good or bad experiences at a Harley Davidson dealership? I've had good and bad for sure. I'm sure there's going to be some pretty interesting stories down below. I'd love to hear those. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, holding down.